put in here a calendar. So we have the calendar for October, November. I have this cute little calendar for October. You can write your stuff in there if you wanted to print that off. We have the major October, November transits. So here it talks about the moon and what the moon is doing. We have our new moons, first quarter, full moons, last quarter, all of those are there. And then the mundane transits for October, November. So you could go, say you have a really wild day and you're like, oh, October 17th. Well, Venus in Scorpio is sextile Pluto in Capricorn, 29 degrees. That's what's going on in the sky. If you don't know the glyphs, you might have to Google that. We should have a resource in Cozy Cosmos there too. And then this talks about the major transits. You can go to the end there to figure out what houses it is for you based on your rising sign. We also have in here the moon gates, and we just went through moon Venus coming together in the sign of Scorpio. So I really feel like you might have had some lessons relationally in that Scorpio part of your chart because of this moon Venus coming together on that October 5th. So what, and just scooting that ahead as we go into Scorpio season, you can see here where that's showing up for you in your chart. Okay, back to the chart of the moment. And for Cozy Cosmo people, for eclipse people, for luminescence people, again, we are meeting on Wednesday. You should have received a link. You can find the events in the Mighty Networks. If you have any questions, let us know. So we start off the week interestingly. Just going to move this for myself. October the 7th with the moon in Sag. And this is a big week astrologically. Not only have we just come from that new moon eclipse in Libra, but Jupiter is going to station to go retrograde. This happens every year for about 4 months. It will be retrograde until February. But it's also really interesting that Pluto is going to station direct. So Pluto has been retrograde for quite a while, and it's going to go direct. So this is really interesting energy. And I'm actually just going to note, we're going to talk through the week, and then I'm going to show the chart with just those two, how that might be influencing you. But Libra, particularly in the body's primary function, is to maintain the body's equilibrium. We tend to think of balance as a static state. Even, if we think of the scale that represents Libra, we tend to think about it not moving. But most often it is, our bodies, especially, an extremely dynamic function that requires constant coordination and tweaking. Maintaining homeostasis is a multi-organ process with a lot of filtration, distillation, secretion, and excretion. Libra governs many interconnected cycles and complex feedback loops. Although it may not look like much on the outside, Libra's balance is continuously rising and falling of all of our blood, our water, and our hormones. And I'm reading right now a fabulous book on hormones and how much it affects us and our endocrine system, and how much our endocrine system is affected by all of the things that are going on around us. It makes me think all of the time of this homeostasis that we might be seeking, but that is always fluctuating. So we can think about all those organs, our blood, acid-base balance inside of ourselves, our kidneys, our adrenal glands, our urinary bladder. That is big, 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 big. The lower back muscles, the lumbar spine and lumbar nerves, our ovaries and our testes are shared in medical astrology with Scorpio. The fallopian tubes are shared with Gemini. Our veins shared with Aquarius, and our complexion And our skin is our biggest organ, and it's one of the things that shows off pretty quickly if something is not going properly. Now, when we think or want to talk about balance, we just went through the equinox. Balance is something that we're being required to take a look at. Symmetry is something in our bodies that we can kind of see through the Libra lens, right? We have two nostrils, we have two eyes, we have two arms, and the balance between the two. And this is something that's really interesting to me, having had a shoulder that was bad, which side is stronger. Oftentimes we will have a side that's stronger. Oftentimes, I am a bit ambidextrous, but for the most part, you will have one side that you use for writing, for grabbing things. And Libra, when we think about sports and stuff, could be ballet, gymnastics, competitive bodybuilding, paddleboarding, partner sports, Pilates, slacklining, surfing, tennis. I love all of those. So I just want you to think about, maybe how can you get active through something that, and doing an activity that is social, that is with another person. Our body might be showing us signs of imbalance. This can be, blood sugar, our cortisol, fertility changes, our hormone balance, acne, skin stuff. So when we're thinking about Libra in the very physical sense, when we're thinking about balance, I even just want you to, in your day-to-day world, as you're walking around, think about some of these things. Now, we start the week with that sun in Libra, the moon in Sagittarius. There's a lot of aspects this week. Okay. And when we're thinking about a busier week in that way, it's sometimes like we might be feeling it more energetically. I had a lot more eclipsey type of things happen 2 or 3 days after the eclipse. We don't always, some people will feel it before, some people feel it during, some people feel it after, but eclipses definitely are longer running, longer standing. We will have, these events, really offshooting into quite a while afterwards. And I call this week developing our faith in self, because this is something we are going to be tasked with Jupiter turning retrograde. It's like, what do you believe in? I say this to my kids that I coach all the time. If you say you can't, then you've already been defeated. And we need to believe in ourselves. We need to have that faith. Now, Tuesday, Venus will trine Mars, Mercury trines Jupiter. And I like this. And Mercury trining Jupiter right before it goes retrograde feels like a cog in the wheels that kind of gets, or maybe this is a conversation that kind of is like a wall. That's kind of like, we need to do this, but we can't. Okay. Jupiter in Gemini turning retrograde feels like a change in the wind. Okay. And this week feels like a leap of faith of like, what do you really believe in? What has been your Jupiter in Gemini story? And how are you going to double down on the faith of that part of your chart? Now, moving that ahead to that Tuesday, seeing this beautiful trine energy, right? Mercury, communication, mind, even like sales and markets, business interactions, transactions, and Jupiter, the planet of expansion and growth and more. This could also be like having a conversation with someone and all of a sudden being like, oh my God, I'm so late for something, because it just like all of these words, everything was flowing and feeling so good. And now all of a sudden I have to rush somewhere because I am late. Okay. So just tuning into that Venus in the sky, trining that Saturn, that feels also like relationally not maybe maybe some ease and flow and beauty, but also this feeling of like, what are you committed to? Who are you committed to? And how are you going to get there? Wednesday, Jupiter retrograde begins in Gemini. Again, this will be retrograde until February. And we can really feel the retrogrades like 5 days out. So we're in it right now, big time. This whole week, we'll be feeling that in that part of your chart. So I want you to look back to May, the end of May 2024, what started in that Jupiter part of your chart, and how might you be having to redo, revise, review in that part of your chart. We'll talk about that when I put up just Jupiter and Pluto for each sign, but we can use this energy for good. It just means that you're going to have to slow down a little bit. I love this when I think of my chart, because it's like Jupiter is my house of money. And it's like, okay, let's make a budget. Let's make sure we're not overspending in places. I just bought like a bunch of bathing suits, and it's like, okay, we're not buying any more bathing suits, you know, for a while, that kind of energy. Thursday, we get this first quarter moon in Capricorn. And so we want to look back to the new moon that happened 9 months before this. I will have the date in, let's just look it up really quickly. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the new moon in Capricorn, interesting, that happened was on January the 11th. And so we're going to look back in our calendars, in our pictures to January 11th, 2024, and something might be coming to a choice point for us in the Capricorn part of our chart. Okay. So look back, take a look at that January 11th. What was going on for me? Where do I maybe need a bit of a leap of faith, you know, in this part of my chart? Friday, Pluto stations direct. So again, the 5 days, you know, around this station, we're going to feel it deeper. This is the final countdown. Da-na-na. Like, really, this isn't going to happen ever again in our lifetime, unless, you know, by some Aquarian scientific craziness, we learn to live well past, you know, 100 years. Pluto going direct in the Capricorn part of our chart is asking us to put to bed this struggle, maybe a death, from the Capricorn part of our chart. And I'm just going to draw a card here, actually, to gain a little bit more direction on Pluto stationing direct. Sunday, we have Mercury entering Scorpio, very different feel, deeper, passionate, a little bit secretive, a little bit alluring or mysterious. And Mercury also squares Pluto, which is an energy of like microdosing. Oh, isn't that funny? Of course, I pulled the Capricorn card. So really focusing and thinking about the Capricorn part of our chart. And I'm just going to read to you, you know, the keywords here: realistic, wise, ambitious, pragmatic, cynical, success, new direction. Capricorn is a realistic, practical, and hardworking sign, the most ambitious character in the zodiac. The astrological symbol for Capricorn is the goat, sometimes depicted as the mythical sea goat. The goat represents a patient determination to scale great heights and reach the pinnacle in all endeavors. If you have lofty goals, this card says that you have the intelligence and diligence to achieve them. An earth sign Capricorn is pragmatic, stoical, firmly rooted in the tangible world, and only trusts in what they can see, touch, and build. Responsible, structure-loving Saturn is the ruling sign here, ruling planet, sorry, which gives them a realistic but slightly cynical outlook on life. Expect to work very hard to achieve success and respect others who have a great example before you. This isn't the card of chances or frivolous people who are hoping for the next get rich quick scheme. It's a card that tells you to do the work and you will be rewarded. And sometimes we can't tell if other people are doing the work. So just keeping in mind, like Capricorn, I think also is like really focusing on your side of the street. Okay. And then the sun trining Jupiter, which feels